What's up, everybody? It's Blake, Scholar of Magic, and today we're just going to basically look at two cards and really have a build around because I really enjoy them so much. This is an artifact Re-animator deck. Our commander will be Meria, and we'll get into that in a second, but the two cards that really kind of make me just go like, wow, is this Scrap Mastery card is so amazing to me, especially like with a card like Mesmeric Orb, for instance, where we're just loading cards into the graveyard, really playing a lot of artifacts. And whether, we have interaction against us and it puts a lot of our artifacts in the graveyard, or we just accumulate a lot of artifacts in our graveyard. And, we'll still have probably artifacts on the battlefield, but it's just in our interest to get those artifacts in our graveyard on the battlefield. And this card is just going to be amazing for us. So what Scrap Mastery does, it's a 3 colors, 2 red, sorcery. Each player exiles all artifact cards from his or her graveyard, then sacrifices all artifacts he or she controls and puts all cards he or she exiled this way onto the battlefield. So that is just exactly what we want to do. We're going to load up our graveyard. We have tons of spells. We benefit not only from putting like massive amount of cards in our graveyard in general, but just high costed artifacts too will be in our deck, both creatures and just regular, high cost artifacts that are not creatures, just permanents in general. And so like our early game is based on putting like, some early ramp and acceleration to our deck with the artifacts and getting those big artifacts into our graveyard. That's pretty much the gist of the deck. Amazing card that kind of like accomplishes this is the Mesmeric Orb. And of course, yes, you will be milling your opponents as well, but we do believe that, we're going to be having a lot more payoffs. We're very focused on having a lot of, getting a lot of benefit from building our graveyard and having those payoffs be focused for us. So not only is Mesmeric Orb just a great way of putting cards in our graveyard, it also acts as a mana rock with Meria, which we love so much. Additionally, there's just some extremely strong cards that we can, play in Gruul and really benefit from it. Just think of like a Worldly Tutor, right? What card is useful with Worldly Tutor? Well, if we can find a Goblin Welder, that's going to be very good in the early game. Just seeking one of these guys out is really going to unlock our deck. We're going to be able to exchange low-cost artifacts and treasures and meteorites for this thing and really just let it roll, really let it go loose. And I'm very excited to kind of see how far this card can go with us. There's some, whether it's, resurrecting the combustible Gear Hulk early in the game, or even like a Portal of Phyrexia, whatever it is, the Goblin Welder is going to be very powerful for us. Additionally, the Goblin Engineer is like probably one of my favorite cards because it can just entomb any artifact in our library into our graveyard, which is just basically you seek out an artifact card. There's no mana restriction. You just put it into your graveyard, which is great. The restriction on this card is though that you have to pay a red and tap it and then sacrifice an artifact to exchange that artifact for an artifact in our graveyard with 3 or less mana. So we have some nice hits. We have the Phyrexian Dragon Engine, for instance. We have Sting, which would be a very cool card to put on like a Goblin Engineer or Goblin Welder because we can kind of keep those chains going through our opponent's turns, which would be very fun as well. We could find a Mesmeric Orb. There's so many different ways we can go about it, right? Of course, Trash for Treasure is also just another amazing card, and going to go ahead and sacrifice once again another artifact on our battlefield for one in our graveyard. It's like a one of, but once again, it just kind of gets us over that finish line. Lots of versatility there. And Ready, I like this. I like that he enables the discard cards. It kind of enables that kind of graveyard building. Additionally, you could just go ahead and sacrifice an artifact on the battlefield and have that redundancy where you're just exchanging any artifact on the battlefield for one in the graveyard for that -2. So we just love it. So that's kind of the gist, and really it's all about this card in general, Scrap Mastery, and then Mesmeric Orb just being just like the boss wherever that card went. Yeah, this card is just kind of amazing. These two in conjunction here are just phenomenal, and we just love them so much. So with that in mind, keep that in mind. Just put these ones to the side. Here is our commander here. Meria, the Scholar of Antiquity, is a 1 colorless, 1 red, 1 green. She is an elf artificer, legendary creature. Tap an untapped non-token artifact control, add green. Tap 2 untapped non-token artifacts control. Exile the top card of your library. You may play it this turn. So basically, how this works is that you can have like an artifact on the battlefield such as this that normally wouldn't produce any mana at all and would just lie statically on your battlefield. It would get you value, but with Meria, you can go ahead and when she's on the battlefield, you can go ahead and tap this down, and now you can make a green mana out of it. So it just basically turns into like a mana rock, which is fine, and it produces colored mana too, which is also a bonus. So it doesn't just produce colorless, it does produce green. It doesn't produce rainbow mana, wouldn't produce like any color mana, unfortunately, but hey, we get what we get. Additionally, say for instance, you have like 2 artifacts that, normally once, like for instance, like a Shriekhorn, once it's exhausted, it's just kind of sitting there waiting to be sacrificed or, just sitting and doing nothing after it, exhausts the charge counters off of it. But with Meria, we can go ahead and tap that for mana, or if we have 2 artifacts that are just kind of sitting around, perhaps we need to put a land on to the battlefield for the turn and we want to do an impulse draw, or maybe we're running low on gas. Go ahead and tap these 2, just like so. And now we can exile the top card of our library and we can play it for the turn. So that's a nice way of getting a little bit of card advantage and kind of taking use out of your artifacts that might just be sitting there and not doing anything. Very versatile card. One of my favorite commanders to play. This is a card that is our namesake for our channel now. Blake, Scholar of Magic. This is what I'm all about. I remember cracking this card when Dominaria came out, like a year or 2 ago, and I was just enamored. I just couldn't believe this card. It was like, it spoke to me, man. Like, it just was like, wow, this card is so great. And I had a great time with it in Standard, too. I don't think she ever got too popular. I could see her, like, in a Jund deck now, mostly. I think I kind of see that. I think she's just missing, like, maybe Emerald Medallion and Ruby Medallion in Standard. I feel like if those were not a modern card and they were in Standard, I feel like she could take off and kind of take over that Standard format. But that's what it is right now. And she's just kind of sitting there just waiting maybe for one of those prints to come out. But I don't know if those cards will ever be Standard legal. So she's definitely more fitted for higher powered formats. She definitely sees more play in that, I would say, than in Standard. But she's a great card. Okay, so that's my assessment about that. Now let's get into the cards of like how are we gonna get there? So let's go. So these are the cards that basically are gonna create a good deal of cards going into our graveyard. That's primarily what we want to do. We want to kind of exchange those cards and kind of get our graveyard to emphasize that and kind of use it as an additional hand, to our side. We don't really see it once our hand is exhausted as that we're like low on gas, because if our graveyard is looking good, then we're doing what we want to do. That's our primarily plan is to get our graveyard really strong and cooking and fast. We could definitely combo off in certain ways with this. Not for like a OTK, but just really get a lot of value. So Faithless Looting, that 1 red sorcery, draw 2 cards and discard 2 cards for that low cost of red is great. And that flashback is also really nice, where we can go ahead and use this later on if we have to keep searching for things. It might incidentally be milled into our graveyard, so could get value out of it that way as well. Shriekhorn, like I said, I kind of illustrated how this card can just be tapped for mana. It could be used as impulse draw, or of course it could just build our graveyard in the early stages of the game, which is exactly what we want. I use this in all my graveyard decks. It's just a phenomenal card. Volatile Wanderglyph. This is the one where it's not only going to produce mana when we tap it with Meria, it's also going to loot. What a fantastic card. Thanks for the user. That's about a couple months ago that suggested this card. You're the awesomest, and this is an awesome card. Smuggler's Copter. Once again, the fact that you can draw and look and then discard is just amazing. Really nasty card for us. Really good one. Really love this one a lot. Scrapwork Mutt, kind of that that one and done guy. Just a great card, just to like, put something in your graveyard, sacrifice it, get value from it later. It's just a 2/1 creature. We just love it. Love everything about it. Love the unearthed cards a lot. NT, this is the one that I kind of want to get into, and I also want to kind of explore Ulamog the Defiler with this deck too, as like another bomb to have in our deck. And I think I do want to build up to it because we have put NT in. I feel like NT along with Brass Tunnel Grinder, just like these cards that like draw a discard for us and just like put cards into exile, I feel is very interesting. This card's also very good with Mox Amber. It just turns on Mox Amber in the early game. So I'm just like a big fan of NT right now. I just think it's like just a very cool, risk reward card where we can get value and put cards into exile from discarding other cards. So I like it. I'm a fan. Here's Mask of Memory. Just another one that's good to put on a creature that's going to get in there and go ahead and draw those two and then discard a card. We love it. It's an artifact. We tap it for mana. Just beautiful. These are all beautiful cards. Collector's Vault, what another beauty here. Just can use for mana if we need it to. Otherwise, we're going to tap pay 2 into this. Just loot a card into our hand and then put one into... one will go to the graveyard, one from our library we'll draw, and we'll also create a treasure token, which is good for it's good fodder for us, right? Because we love our goblins love to sacrifice artifacts in exchange for ones in our graveyard, so it's fantastic. Palantir, this is just the one that if people don't know how to play against it, they're just taking like stupid amounts of damage. It's really obnoxious, and then after that they just have to let you draw a card, and of course we can tap it for mana, so it's just a win-win for us. And you get to scry, so you kind of get to like look for your good stuff. So I just love Palantir. It's just like a really nasty card, and people will just like take 12 damage out of nowhere with this. Like we'll mill like a Great Henge and something else, and it's just like, oh god, they just took so much damage. So yeah, we like the Palantir. Fable is very good for our non-legendary creatures that have entered the battlefield triggers. Additionally, we'll also build our graveyard. We'll create a fodder with our shaman and producing those treasure tokens. It just does everything we want it to do, so we love it. Brass's Tunnel Grinder could put like an abnormal amount of cards into our graveyard at any moment, and really sets up well with our Scrap Mastery. Probably one of the better cards for Scrap Mastery, actually. So probably one of the better looks that Brass's Tunnel Grinder will get in a deck, just because you can tap it for mana. You're descending a lot, and yeah, I think we like everything about Brass's Tunnel Grinder here. Blossoming Tortoise is just that really awesome creature that, we play tested and we just love it. So we love Blossoming Tortoise here just to kind of get us that extra ramp, build our graveyard up continuously, and it's just kind of doing all those things that we want it to do. It's going to be even great with like a Panharmonicon when it enters the battlefield that way. And Lumra, this is kind of the new guy on the block, and just another phenomenal card for us. Just a crazy enter the battlefield trigger where we're going to mill 4 cards and return all lands from our graveyard to the battlefield tapped. This is so good, guys. Roar, Lumra. Roar. Yeah, baby. All right. What else is going on? Let's see. So if we're going to build our graveyard up, we want to have like stuff that's going to kind of, give us a little bit of value, right, from doing so. So a Shifting Woodland, we could copy one of our, artifacts for the turn, or other permanents that we have put in there for the turn. Sounds really good to me. So there is the Shifting Woodlands. That one's a nice one, nice new one there. And so, of course, we discussed like our goblins to a degree. Let's just imagine like a goblin engineer, right? And for instance, we go ahead and find our Sting, and with the goblin engineer, and then we exchange one of our artifacts for Sting, equip that to the goblin engineer, and now we can just go ahead and pay a red and tap it on our opponent's turn steps and exchange artifacts from our battlefield and exchange those for the ones in our graveyard. And so this is a really interesting card, and I really like the fact that like we can fetch up like a Sting, for instance, and kind of let this kind of sit on there, because you can see at the beginning of each combat, untap equipped creature. You might see this work with like a Krenko or such when you're just like amassing a lot of goblins. That would be a really strong interaction with Sting. But we're going to try to do it with our artificers, our goblin artificers here, and give it a go. And additionally, some other good hits for the Goblin Engineer, like a Phyrexian Dragon Engine, because you're just exchanging cheap artifacts on the battlefield for like a draw 3. And you can kind of just like loop this kind of effect where you're just like, this is just a phenomenal card, right? That just has to enter from the graveyard and you're going to get that draw 3. I saw that with Aspiring Spike. He did this combo. He had a Goblin deck and he was showing this off with Goblin Engineer. It's just a lot of value. It's fantastic. Additionally, a card like Prize Statue is one of those ones where we're kind of just netting, right? We're just netting treasures. We're just exchanging like this back and forth, with our Goblin Engineer, Goblin Welder with Sting, and then all of a sudden we're like amassing a lot of like, treasures and, the ability to kind of exchange more and more things on a given turn cycle. So really like Prize Statue with Meria too, just because she turns us into a Mana Rock 2 and we just get more fodder. It's just a perfect card for our deck. I really highly recommend this one. Probably in my tier list for like tier 1, power stuff for this particular archetype. Chromatic Star also kind of fits that bill where you're, able to sacrifice this thing. And then once it's put into the graveyard, you net a card. So it just kind of like serves all those purposes for a good sacrifice target for us. Really like it a lot. It could also kind of fix your mana too. For instance, if you need to make red mana with like for your Goblin Engineer, you can tap down one of your other artifacts and then go ahead and sacrifice this thing. And then you'll be able to get that red mana for yourself and pay off that casting cost. So that's kind of a nice one there. So we like Chromatic Star as well to kind of like fix our mana in some points too if we need to. Additionally, we have Panharmonicon here. This is just a nice one that's going to double up our Enter the Battlefield triggers. We have quite a few, and we've kind of built our deck to have both artifact creatures that have good Enter the Battlefield triggers and just regular creatures that, non-artifact creatures that have good Enter the Battlefield triggers too. So that's some nice payoffs for us. Solemn Simulacrum is just one of those Panharmonicon hits where just gets so much more value for like putting down 2 more basics from our deck rather than just 1. So we enjoy the Solemn very much. Additionally, Solemn can just tap for mana as well, just another major hit. Combustible Gearhulk, we kind of discussed this card a little bit already. What a fantastic hit this would be, just like for our Goblin Welder. And in the early game, we're just all of a sudden milling more cards in our deck if the opponent doesn't want to let us draw 3. And then they can take a lot of damage in the meantime because we have some big mana value costs in here. So I really like this. I really like this a lot, guys. Really cool. We kind of moved into like another era of this deck, and it's just kind of a little bit more sophisticated, I think, a little more focused, and really based on those artifact creatures. And I think it'll get better and better really over time. I feel like perhaps eventually we can just have major big bomb artifacts in here with like great Enter the Battlefield triggers and combat damage triggers for our Doors of Durin, and that's kind of really the goal. There's Duplicants, just like a very nice removal spell, and then we'll like take the characteristics of the creature that exiled. Here's the Steel Hellkite. And this one is just another really cool Doors of Durin hit, just another cool artifact Re-animator hit, just a really nasty card. And if we can kind of get it out earlier than not, then it's going to be even better. Meteor Golem, just that kind of standard removal spell, just comes out of the graveyard, takes out a permanent. So good. Any permanent, any non-land permanent's just great. Just take out like a nasty enchantment, a nasty creature, could really turn the tide of the game for us. Let us get into our Crater Hoof and our win conditions. Cityscape Leveler, similarly, just kind of like an operator. Just says, yo, I'm here. I'm going to destroy something for you on my cast. I can't really be interacted with very well at all. And then I'm going to come to the battlefield. And I'm going to take care of business. So we love that. God Pharaoh's Gift, just absolutely insane. Just getting like our hasty guys from our graveyard. The creatures will be resurrected at the beginning of our combat. It's a 4/4 zombie. We get those Enter the Battlefield triggers. It's just a beautiful thing, guys. And these things could all be resurrected with our Goblin Welder and Goblin Engineer. Just fantastic. Here's the Portal of Phyrexia, kind of rounds out that juice, and there we go, guys. So there's our major hits, and they all serve a very good purpose there. So we are just swimming through this, and I'm gonna just kind of round this out here. Let's see. Sure, yeah, I have those. Okay. So like I said, an Ulamog the Defiler would be kind of fun to kind of, I know they're kind of pricey, so we'll see about how I'm going to obtain that one. I'd maybe get to the LGS today, would be kind of fun. But I do know Commander Games is having their grand opening today on Rainbow and let's see. I think it's Rainbow and Flamingo. So if you guys want to check that out in the Sprouts, if you live in Las Vegas, go ahead and check that out. Commander Games, they're having like a grand opening. They're going to be giving away some things today. So that might be a cool place to go check out if you're in the area. But let's see. So we have our Doors of Durin here. So that's probably like one of the major purposes why we like kind of set out for this deck in the first place, was to get into the Doors of Durin and basically build a deck around that. Scrap Mastery, Mesmeric Orb, Doors of Durin. That was like the focus. It really helped find the cuts, made everything so much easier to like narrow down a deck from like 110 cards to 100 cards. Because I was just like, okay, focus in on these things, and then the deck kind of opened itself up, so to speak. So why is this card so amazing for us? Well, we can go ahead and we can always exchange this in an early game and get this down sooner than later. It triggers whenever we attack with anything. And then we get to scry 2, leave a card on the top, preferring, of course, a creature of some sort, a bigger creature than not, and then reveal that, and then it's tapped and attacking. So we get the enter the battlefield triggers, and if it connects, we get the combat damage triggers if there are those triggers for the card. So pretty affordably priced. We could just cast this for 5 as well, which is not so bad. And then we're going to be looking for some really nasty creatures. And the cards that really help kind of set the Doors of Durin on fire, so to speak, are these cards that kind of manipulate the top at like instant speed. So like a Worldly Tutor, for instance, would be great. Can put like any creature card on the top of our library for that Doors. Sensei's Divining Top can help us get there, kind of like manipulate the top of our library. And Sylvan Library can kind of clear the way as well, making sure that we're like, setting up those creatures so when we do attack, we're going to be finding something. Some of our awesome like kind of hits off of a Doors of Durin follow. So we have Roxanne. And if you see one of my Brawl videos I did yesterday, I did a little short on that. I sang because it was so great to draw her. She's just a fantastic card. Great to cast, great to cheat in. Just love it. She creates fodder for us. Makes all of our non-token artifacts, our artifact tokens tap for additional mana, which is nice, like our treasures and such. So very cool. Xenagos is just like my tier 1, 5-drop, just absolutely insane card. An insane card like off of a hit of like a Tally, for instance, where you want to, maybe you had a Smuggler's Surprise and you got a Crater Hoof and a Tally on the battlefield, and then your Tally found a Xenagos, and then all of a sudden your Tally swinging for 26 damage. It's just like, this is crazy. There's just crazy stuff going on, right? So, Xenagos is just a Gruul energy. I love it. I hope they never change that about Gruul. Just like total like slam out of nowhere, right? Very powerful. Vorinclex also can build a graveyard, just a really nice hits for us. Has those forests, can fetch some forests for us, which is very nice. We can find our stomping ground, commercial districts. Those type of forests are in play with Vorinclex. Disciple of Frailise, a newer card from MH3. This one's nice. We can go ahead and sacrifice another creature on the battlefield, draw cards equal to the power and gain life equal to its power. Very nice. It can also act as a land by paying 3 life. Trumpeting Carnosaur, just a nice enter the battlefield trigger dinosaur for us. I like the Discover 5. We have like a lot of good 5-drops, and I feel like it's just very appropriate for us, so that just seems like a really good enter the battlefield trigger. Very good with Panharmonicon as well. Balefire Dragon is just going to be that nice combat damage entree for us for the Doors of Durin, where It's just tapped and attacking from the Doors of Durin, and it's like going to deal 6 damage to all that opponent's creatures where it connects with. So very strong for us, of course. Etali. This is that major bomb, right? And it's even better in EDH. I can't believe how good this card is. Maybe it would be better if it's just like one opponent, right? Like a target opponent, you and target opponent, like exile cards, but it's all your opponents. So it's kind of a cheat code, right? Yeah, maybe it's too strong for this format, but yeah, there's Etali. It's just obviously a great hit off of the Doors of Durin. Vaultborn Tyrant, that's a new guy on the block. This card's like $25 or something. It's absolutely crazy. I just happened to pick it up in a booster pack. So that was in Outlaws. And this one's nice. You just, basically draw cards when it enters the battlefield. When it dies, it makes itself into an artifact that's like the same power and with the same characteristic of when a creature with 4 power enters the battlefield, you draw a card and gain 3 life. So it enables itself. It's a really, really cool card. Really like that one a lot. Endrace Forerunners, this is like your cheap man's Crater Hoof, but it still gets the job done, right? It's a 7/7, your other creatures get 2/2 and Trample and Vigilancy on the turn. That's nice. So we like that a lot. And then, of course, the Big Daddy Papa right here, the Crater Hoof Behemoth. It's just a bomb. So we just really like that one a lot. And that one's a super solid card. And yeah, it's definitely a win con for us. Like I kind of described earlier, like a Smuggler's Surprise really unlocks this deck, and it can really kind of end the game and deal a lot of damage at once. So Crater Hoof comes down, makes all the other creatures a little bit stronger. Itself has haste, and will give everything trample. So it's just a lot of damage. This is another one I want to try, the Apex Altasar. But I think I could see even like an Ulamog the Defiler in here for this one. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'll try this one out for now. It just seems like a good Doors of Durin hit will kind of control the board. Might take out like 3 or more creatures. So we'll definitely want to try that Apex Altasar out. So there we go. So there's our sweet hits from our Doors of Durin. You can see those are where like our non-artifact creature hits. So we definitely will be playing non-artifact creatures. So the God Pharaoh's statue can kind of help us get into that, or God Pharaoh's gift. So let's go over our tier 1 cards here, and then we'll get into our mana ramp so you can just kind of see what we're working with here. So Smuggler's Surprise is just my absolute go-to. I feel like this card is just so exceptional, and I feel like just getting to that 6 is fine. Like 1 forest, 4 colorless, an additional forest, and putting those 2 creature cards from our hand on the battlefield is great. If we can get to the other modes too, that's fine. We will have some benefits from milling cards, and also additionally, we will probably have some likely hits from those 4 as well. So yeah, we like everything about Smuggler's Surprise. It's just and it's at instant speed, which is really strong, right, guys? So I really love this card a lot. I made a couple videos of it, and I think we've seen how powerful it is. It's just really good. So definitely my tier 1 list here. This is also just like a tier 1 card for me, the Shadow Spirit. The fact that you just can gain so mumuch life on it, bump up your creature a little bit, kind of actually makes a lot of sense, and kind of gets you over the finish line sometimes too. So that little buff there, trample and lifelink, that's nice. We can give our other our opponent's things lose indestructibility or hexproof to the end of the turn by paying 1 into it, so it can pay for that self by tapping it with Meria. The equip cost is just very appropriate, I'd say. So we love Shadow Spear. Give us a lot of life. Howling Mind is just great here. We'll just tap it down with Meria and be the people that benefit from not only tapping this for mana, but also drawing an additional card on our draw step. Rhythm of the Wild is just another amazing card. It would be very hard for me not to include this into my Gruul piles any longer, because the fact that it makes your creatures uncounterable, and also having your creatures come in with a counter or haste is just really big for me right now. So I really like Rhythm of the Wild. The One Ring is just the stupidest card. I mean, whoever draws this first likely wins, right? So if I can get a 1 ring on the battlefield, whether I cast it or put it in from the graveyard, I'm happy. I prefer to cast it actually because I like that protection clause, especially in a 1 versus 1 format. It's just so powerful. You're right. I think there were people saying that maybe just one of these in a deck would be very appropriate. Like it's called the One Ring, so just one limit into like a constructed deck. That kind of makes sense. Like I feel like playing against this card and someone just spewing this over and over again would be like really devastating. It'd be very hard to like interact with. So there's the One Ring is extremely strong. Here's the Great Henge too. Just fits that bill of like very good targets to resurrect, or else we can just cast it, with one of our bigger creatures for a cheaper cost, and then just start getting in value, drawing cards by putting our creatures on the battlefield, and you get a little Rampion life. It's just amazing stuff, guys. All right, so now we're just gonna kind of rip through these kind of utility artifacts. This is just like our acceleration, so to speak. So Mox Amber, really good with NT and Ragavan. Paradise Mantle, just amazing with Meria. Turning Meria into Mana Rock is fantastic. Soul Ring, of course, just sort of like our early acceleration into these massive 2-drops, like Soul Ring to Arcane Signet, Soul Ring into Emerald Medallion, like all these really stupid openings that we can have. And they are stupid. They're stupid strong. So then we have Delight Halfling, we have a bird, Ragavan. So just like some general like rampage here in the beginning, really kind of really banking on like our low cost, like our Mox Ambers and Paradise Mantles and Soul Rings and such to really pull us through with these other mana generating engines here. So then we'll work into the lands. I'd say like Commercial District is probably one of your better lands because it surveils, and we want to build a graveyard. Of course, Cavern of Souls goes into all my decks. Just to have that kind of uncounterability on a land just seems very, very strong. Mycosynth Garden's just a copy like our Mesmeric Orbs. It can copy like Sting. Can it copy Sting? It might be a legendary artifact. I haven't really played too much with that, but it could copy our Palantirs. It seems very good for us. Urza Saga acting as like an additional kind of mana dork where it's just going to go ahead and fetch us up like a Paradise Mantle or a Shriekhorn or a Soul Ring and really get us going, accelerated. I like Arena of Glory because it will give us that haste on a creature. It's kind of like mana neutral, right? Where you're sinking into this, tapping a red and then tapping this and then producing 2 red, but that creature you cast it with will have haste. It's kind of an interesting concept. Boseiju Who Endures, just some nice interaction with the land. We have more nice multi-phase cards like Shatter Skull and Turn Timber Symbiosis. Removal spell, this will give us a chance for more creatures. These are just lands, it's just no-brainer stuff. Balaged will get into our graveyard. Bridgeworks Battle as a fight spell. Yeah, there's really no thing really holding us back from playing these cards. I mean, we have Shadow Spear in our deck, so it's really nice. And lots of life. We get a lot of life in Commander, so we'll need it. City of Brass, Mana Confluence, Prismatic Vista. Just these are all our fetch lands now. They're just a beautiful fetch lands. Very good for our Blossoming Tortoise especially. It loves this stuff. Spire Garden. These are our duels here. So we have some nice assortment of duels. They're all very fantastic. So we're all digging this stuff. We really do, guys. There's Yavimaya and then some basics here. And that is the deck. It's a good one, I think. Well, I would say it's probably pretty good. I think so, but I'd like to play test this one today. I really am kind of jonesing for that. It's not a casual deck, that's for sure. So, I have like a kind of a more casual deck, more budgety, but this is like a little more high flying, I'd say. Just for the fact that you're playing like a really obnoxious card like Scrap Mastery. And I feel it's got a little bit of a grindy side to it, to be honest. And these kind of win cons in here, like the Crater Hoof, is just. I think that's what I like about Gruul, though. It doesn't like have any like fluff, right? I think Gruul is very like to the point. Let's kind of like end the game sooner than later, and I kind of like that about Gruul. I feel like that it's exciting. It brings like kind of an excitement to the table, like, and. You can kind of act like kind of like a blue mage in this deck with kind of the combos here that are enabled, especially like with Sting and your little goblin guys, you can kind of get into some really sick value. And I really want to get into the sick value, guys. I want to see like how far we can take it. You know, I want to see like how far like, you know, these goblins work, and I want to see what they can do. And I think like probably putting in like the, you know, worldly tutoring, kind of giving them a chance, you know, giving them a chance to find them, and making the deck play a little more efficiently would be very good. Of course, these two cards, like really, I mean, I really can't really go wrong with these. Like if these are in my Meria deck, I have a lot of confidence, and they can be a trap on Arena. Like they're really good, and you know, they're almost like standalone cards. Like if I have an Emerald Medallion, like it's basically when I cast Meria, I'm reducing and I'm tapping for mana. So it's kind of like, you know, like a double whammy, right? Where it's like producing like additional mana that it shouldn't be. So these are very alluring. It's just like important that you want to like, when these kind of keeps are done, you want to make sure maybe you have like that bridge, like those 4 mana cards, and maybe even the 5 mana card. Maybe you could pull off, like, because that would curve with Meria pretty well. If you had that additional land after the turn you played Meria, you can get into a 5-drop with one of these. So yeah, depending on its color configuration, you might even be able to get into a 6-drop. So yeah, I feel like these are solid, but you just have to be kind of careful with them too. Don't just rely on them, but just know that they're in there and they're just very good for you. So there's medallions, and then of course like prize statue is in here too. It's just like a lot of like value. And of course we just have our really nice land base here, so I'm not really too concerned about it. And then I think we just have our handy dandy graveyard cards here, of course. Just some really nice ones. If you see any ones that maybe you like and you want me to check them out, I'm more than happy to do so. You guys always make good recommendations for me. So I hope you have a great day. That's Meria's Artifact Re-animator deck. So have a great one, guys. Bye-bye.